Here's your two favorite gals who love talking cash. They teach you about dollars while making you laugh. When it comes to money, don't be slackers. Listen to Galia and Susan, Susan and Galia. Galia and Susan, they're the Fiscal Firecrackers. Yeah. Take it, ladies.
Woo! Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Excited to be here.
I am wearing a sweater today that is covered in dollar signs. And I have to tell you, Galia, I took your advice. I was given a gift card by my husband. And because I listened to this podcast, I know to take a gift card and immediately use it.
Exactly.
So within 5 minutes, I opened it and I was out the door in the car going to the store to use that gift card before the store goes bankrupt, before I lose the gift card, before somebody takes the gift card. I've learned from you, so thank you very much.
And is that what you got? What you're wearing?
Yeah, I got this because I'm doing a podcast about money. Isn't it great?
I love it. I love it, love it, love it.
I thought it was perfect. So
yes, it is perfect.
Thank you from both Kevin and from you. I appreciate it. Hey, everybody. I am Susan.
And I'm Galia.
And we are the Fiscal Firecrackers, for sure.
Is this the part where we make the firecrackers noise?
Yeah, we might as well. Pop. This is the show where we have a complete and total blast while we learn to make your money last.
Mm-hmm. You bet. That's what we're here for.
All right, everybody. I'm Susan Yeagley, and I was born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee, and now I live in Los Angeles. I followed my dream to break into showbiz, and now I happily live in LA as a mommy, a spousey, and an actress who wears sweaters with dollar signs on them. I've always been fascinated by money, especially when I was in my 20s and I had none. Just like you, I want to earn it, learn about it, and watch it grow. So let's jump in and turn those fried green tomatoes into greenbacks. Let's take our hot buttermilk biscuits dripping with honey and possibility and throw them onto the gravy train. And guys, I got to tell you, this podcast, it honestly makes me giddy because I have access to my own private financial guru and money maven. She has completely changed my life. So thank you and take it away, Queen Galia.
For those of you that are listening, you can't see my face. My cheeks are smiling so big, they hurt. They really hurt. So a quick question before I introduce myself, Susan. Would you have bought that sweater before our podcast?
Heavens no.
Okay, my work is done. My work is done.
You have changed me. I'm thinking about money so much, I'm putting it on my clothes. Wait till you see my panties I'm buying on Friday.
They're not days of the week, are they? Hi, everyone. I'm Galia Gishan. I've worked and studied in money and finance my whole career. To me, money is a tool for financial independence for everyone, but especially for women. I started my career on Wall Street with top New York City investment banks for nearly 10 years and have an undergraduate degree and an MBA in finance. My business, Down to Earth Finance, provides independent financial planning, and I've been teaching at universities and to freelancers for many years. I'm also an active angel investor. I saw 2 really cool companies this week, focusing on women-led and impact startups, and I recently published my first novel, The Accidental Suffragist. Consider me your financial fairy godmother. Now let's get this financial fiesta started.
Let's do.
Today, we're going to talk about your first job. And
oh boy.
And this could be your first job when you were 16 or 12 in some cases, or maybe it's right out of college, but it's really how to get off on a really, really good and smart financial footing right out of the gate. And let's get those habits just fine-tuned, ingrained. Let's get them from the get-go.
Do you remember your first job?
I do. So I really had, I would say, almost like 2 first jobs. My first job was working at a clothing store, Express.
Limited Express, right?
That's right. I was so excited about it because I love their clothing. And they said, well, you have to wear your clothing and we'll give you a 30 or 40% discount. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Well, guess what? After a month working there, my paycheck was like 17 cents because essentially buying the clothing ate up my whole paycheck. So I realized, okay, this is really exciting and I'm really happy how I'm dressed for school, but this is not going to work because I'm essentially paying them to work here. And by the way, they were so, I don't know if anal is the right word, about how you had to fold the clothing. And that didn't work for me.
Oh, yeah, with a clipboard.
Yes.
I folded those sweaters.
So then my second job, which I really did end up working for a few years, was at a hat store in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Oh, yes.
And I loved it because
Galia the Milliner.
I couldn't buy anything there if I wanted to. It's just not, hats for sort of like older ladies.
Were they kind of fascinator hats you would wear to a royal wedding? Or was it a baseball cap that said, disco's dead, but rock is rolling?
It had, I would say, half were pretty cheesy beach hats and half were these like over the top sun hats that maybe not to a royal wedding, but definitely these like really big, intricate sun hats. And we had a lot of Canadians who lived in our town. And let me tell you, they loved those hats. We made a lot of money in that
Did you
store.
get a commission or were you paid hourly?
I was paid hourly, and in a good way, I couldn't spend money there if I tried. There was nothing that I wanted to buy there, but the power of that first paycheck was really, really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Susan? What was your first job?
Oh my gosh. I have so many jobs. I think my first one was when I was 12 and I was a tween lip syncer in an Amy Grant music video back in the South. So I would sit next to Amy in this music video. It's called Angels Watching Over Me. And I got paid $25 and an autographed Amy Grant album. So I was thrilled. Then a year later, I was kind of in the circuit. I didn't sing, but I could act in Nashville. So I had my own little lane that I carved for myself. So I auditioned for the Johnny Cash Christmas special. And I actually got paid $150 for that.
Wow, that's
and
a lot
I
of
would
money.
bop around. Yeah, it was a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
I was 13, and I bopped around in this Christmas special video with Johnny Cash's son, John Carter. I actually have a picture of me with Johnny Cash's son. There we are.
Oh my gosh!
And I was the girl with the gold ribbon,
big glorious smile.
and we had so much fun, and I just had a blast. So that was good money for me. And then here's when John Carter's daddy showed up on set, Johnny Cash. And there I am right there. He's right with the gold talking to him.
Oh my God. Oh my God, Susan, that is priceless.
It was so fun. So that was a really fun world in Nashville, getting to be in these videos, acting. And then I, went on to, I worked as good as it gets, frozen yogurt, because I love frozen yogurt. So when people weren't in the store, yes, I did put my mouth under the machine and drip it into my mouth. And then I wash the bottom of it with alcohol. I'm sorry I did that.
This is like pre-COVID days,
way
right?
pre-COVID days. I worked at Little Caesars Pizza when I was 15, 16.
Wow.
Friday and Saturday nights. I love that job because I'd be at the front and I would know all the families. Oh, hi, Harrisons. How are you? Are you having your double cheese with sausage tonight? Hi, Duncan's. How are y'all? Can I get you a sausage? Do you want some crazy bread? So I knew the families and I was the hostess, but we stayed up like till 1 a.m. I had so much fun. So this guy, Matt, and I would close the store down on weekends and we would be bored. So we would take the pizza dough and the ovens were as long as a huge kitchen. It was just a huge long oven. So we would put the pizza dough into body shapes. We'd make boobies with the bread, long penises with balls out of the bread dough, stick them in the oven, and then they would bake all the way down. And in 15 minutes, they'd pop out these big swollen boobies. And I'd cover them with butter and I'd take them home. We were crazy. And it was so much fun. And I'd get a paycheck. And I loved working. I also worked at the Limited, like you, not Limited Express,
really?
but at the Limited.
Wow. You were the higher end one. I think I was more at the lower end one.
But that's okay. That's all right. I think it's still around. And I had so much fun doing that, sold coats and stuff. And then I would say one of my favorite jobs was working at Benetton. And that was when I was 16, 17. I would be the only one in the store. It was in Nashville. And the best part is my boyfriend would come in. He had basketball practice and then he would come in and I'd shut the store down and then we would make out on the table where I was supposed to fold mock turtlenecks. And then I would hear people knocking on the store, and then I'd quickly like get off the table with them and then fold the turtlenecks and then reopen the store. And then someone would come in and buy a raincoat. They would leave. I'd lock the store again, go in the back room. We'd dry hump on another turtleneck table. And this was every day after school.
Oh my God.
So
Susan.
I love working.
All right. I think it's time for our first financial tip here. So the first tip, especially if you're listening to this and maybe you're just working after school or you're working in an hourly wage or you're 12 years old like Susan getting paid with an Amy Grant record and $25. But start, and especially women, start by asking for a crumb more.
Yes.
You know what? They can always say no. And what do we mean by a crumb? So if you're getting paid $10 an hour, ask for 11. If
On
you're
that
getting
first
paid
day?
15
At the when you're hired.
Absolutely.
Okay.
What if they said no? You can either say, fine, I'll take the $10 because I really want it, or I'll go look for another job that pays me 11.
But what the great thing about that is they're always going to remember you're the person who asked for a smidge more, just a little bit more. So that bodes respect.
Absolutely. And by the way, most of the time they say, okay. This is a little bit with negotiation, and I have done so much research. I've watched so many videos. And I've personally experienced this. Most of the time when I've asked for a crumb more, a little bit more, they usually say yes, or it starts the negotiation. Or say they're paying you $10 an hour and you say, well, can you pay me 13? And they say, no, but how about 11? So guess what? You walked away with $1 more an hour.
Right.
Or if it's your first job and they're offering you $50,000, which might seem like so much money for you, and that is a lot of money, say, how about 55,000? How about 60,000? And they say, well, that might be too much. How about 52?
There you got it.
You're getting more.
Mm-hmm. And what you're saying too, that tees you up that your baseline now is higher than everybody else, right? So if you're a 16-year-old, you're going to make $11 an hour instead of 10.
You just made your mama very proud right here. I love how you're thinking. Exactly. You're starting off higher. Your next job, you can say, well, they paid me 11. Well, they paid me 55. And the employer say, oh, okay, well, we'll pay you more. So you're off right away. You're off to the races and you're starting off at a higher base.
Okay.
This is so much mind over matter. I guarantee you, especially women versus men, the men are asking for it. So women, you've got to ask for it. Or that person next to you or in front of you or behind you is asking for more money. So you need to ask for more money.
God, that's so
every
important.
time.
Because there's a sense, I know when I've gotten hired, I've just felt like, well, I should just be so grateful that they want me. Mm-hmm. There's so many people that don't have a job right now. I should just be so grateful that they want to hire me as an actor on this show.
And you and I, when we rehearsed this yesterday,
that can exist.
Really powerful negotiating. You know, we were talking about a job that you were going for and you said, well, I'm going to ask for this. And I said, well, let's think about it. Why don't you ask for this? And they can always go lower, but you're still getting more than you wanted to get, than you were hoping to get.
Right.
So ask for a crumb more. And, you know, should you be prepared to walk away if they say no? You could be. I mean, that could take a little bit more will than you might have, but at least ask and know that you asked. And I guarantee you, most of the time they're going to give you more.
Wow.
And I think about even myself. So when I left corporate America and I started working myself as a freelancer, and I've been a freelancer for 15, 20 years, my first hourly rate, you know, I was like, oh my God, I'm so grateful that they're paying me this. And then I just kept upping it and upping it and upping it and upping it. And really, if somebody said, no, I don't want to pay you that hourly fee, I realized that they weren't going to pay me at all.
Oh.
It's not like they weren't going to pay me, you know, because I started charging $25 more an hour. They would not have paid me anything, or they would have paid me so little. Very rarely did someone say, you know what, this is too much. And if I really thought they couldn't afford it and they wanted to work with me, then I would work with them. But like 99% of the time, people said, okay, great. When should we schedule an appointment?
Wow. That's good to know. And I love the idea of educating our young women and young men to ask from an early age at 15 or 16.
Absolutely. Ask for that hourly rate, $1 more, 50 cents more, whatever. And listen, there's a little bit, the art of negotiation is that if you ask for more than you think they'll give, so then you've got a little bit of wiggle room to negotiate. And it's a really, really good exercise because you're going to eventually be negotiating for rent. You're going to be negotiating for mortgage. You're going to be negotiating for car. So it's a really, really good tool to have. But start this with your first job, whether it's hourly or salary, right off the bat.
And everything is negotiating, right? We're doing it with our kids. We're doing it with our spouses. Everything is, you do the dishes this night. I'll make a taco salad the next night. I mean, this is how we roll as humans.
Yes. I even negotiated with my dog this morning. I said, tell you what, if you quickly go to the bathroom, then I promise to take you to the dog park later. He looked at me and said, sure, whatever, Mom.
Sure, Galia. Sure, Fairy Godmother. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Do we have another story or should I go to the 401k
Yeah, let's go to the 401k part.
Okay. So this came up. So I recently taught, for those of you that have heard me give my intro, you know that I teach at colleges, and one of the colleges that I teach at is Barnard College in New York City. And I recently taught a 5-part series really this fall. It was so powerful. And I would say the number one lesson that I taught these college students, and most of them were graduating seniors, was that as soon as they got a job, whether they worked for a company or worked for themselves, but the first thing that they did as soon as they got this job was to sign up for the retirement plan at their job.
Oh, that's so important. Who thinks about that when they're 22?
Right.
You're not thinking about that.
No, most of them were thinking, oh my gosh, I'm getting a paycheck. I'm so excited. Now I can finally afford those boots that I've been coveting, or I can go out to dinner. And I said, nope. Think about yourself first, not for the boots or the dinner, but really think about how to take care of yourself.
See, I wish I had done that because I was at the Limited. I was at a frozen yogurt store. I was at Little Caesars Pizza, and I would get these checks and I would blow them on Bonnie Bell lip gloss and Frogger and Donkey Kong. That's what I did when I was 15, 16, 17. I never thought about retirement. I never thought, that could have really helped me out if I had invested at 17, 18, 19.
I know. And here's the thing is that if you can start this right away, it doesn't matter how much you do. The fact is you're just doing it because you're young and you've got the power of compound interest. So for those listeners out there, if you're young, sign up for that plan right away. If you are not young, or if you have a child or a teenager or a college student or a child who's working at a job, encourage them to do it right away. So here's how you do it. So if you work for a company, there's two kinds of plans. There's either the 401k or the 403b. And a 403b is if you work for a nonprofit like a hospital or university, or so that's their retirement plan. It's also called thrift plans. There's so many different names, but it's usually a 403b. Or 401k is if you work for a corporation. So sign up for their plan as soon as possible. And chances are the company is matching, but they won't match unless you contribute.
Okay.
So if you think you can't afford a lot, start with 3%. It's going to be 3% of your gross paycheck. That means your paycheck before they take taxes out.
Okay.
You will not miss it. You might miss it a little bit the first paycheck, but then you will not miss it. I've done so many workshops where there's 50, 100 people in the room. And I literally say, for those of you that ever got a 401k, did you miss the money taken from your paycheck? Raise your hand. And nobody would raise their hand.
Wow.
You don't miss the money. And if you're starting with 3%, strive and literally put it as a reminder in your calendar that every 6 months to increase it by 1%.
That's great.
Again, you'll be up to 5, 6, 7% before you know it. Your ultimate goal, and this is an expression, your ultimate goal is to max out your 401k. So what does that mean? Max out your 401k.
It sounds sexy to me.
Of course, I think maxi pad, but I don't know. Do they even have maxi pads? Is that even a thing anymore?
I don't know, but I did see a meme floating around of a person who didn't have a mask going into a grocery store, and they put a maxi pad on their mouth.
Did they really? Did they put the adhesive side on their face?
I'm not sure which side, but this man and his wife just put a maxi pad up there.
Oh my God. But
I don't think the CDC approves of that at all.
Well, I don't know. The CDC these days might, like, they seem to be changing their mind every day, but maybe they put the maxi pad, did they put it under the nose? Like, I mean,
it was a big Super Plus maxi pad for heavy flow days. And it was.
Wait, did it have wings? Did it have the wings? Like the wings?
Yes, it had the wings. Yes. It covered up the entire face.
Okay. So use that maxi pad and max out your 401k. And what does that mean? So legally, you can contribute up to $19,500 a year.
Holy gosh. Are you serious?
Yes. Now that's a lot of money.
That's
and especially, and if you have a little paycheck, like if you're only making $30,000 a year, that's a lot of money because then you're going to be left with very little money. But your goal is, if you can, to max it out. And especially at a young age, if you can put $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a year away into a 401k or 403b, you are going to be set for retirement.
That's incredible.
And start young.
Because they're matching it, right? So let's say, I'm 22 and let's say I am now shaking hands with the owner of Dairy Queen who has hired me. I have asked for a crumb more. I've asked for a raise. So I've got that. I've asked if they have a retirement fund, right? And then I've asked, what is the max I can put in? These are the things I need to say.
Yes, absolutely.
At the meeting before I'm handed my apron. Okay.
So I will say, and first of all, I love that you're asking this, Susan. Like you're asking it with confidence, with finesse, with elegance. I love it. I will say that chances are Dairy Queen is not going to offer you a retirement plan because you're not a full-time employee.
So it's just for full-time employees. Okay.
Exactly. It's just for full-time employees.
Okay.
And there are some small businesses that don't offer a retirement plan, but those are far and few between. Most companies have some sort of retirement plan. Smaller businesses might be called a SEP IRA, but ask for your company. And that's something to think about, by the way, if you are interviewing and you have not accepted a job, is you can ask them, what are your benefits? And that's a very, very graceful and professional way to say, what else do you got?
Yeah, that's really classy to say, what are your benefits versus, how can I get more money from you, Dairy Queen?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and benefits can include retirement plan, health insurance, life insurance, pre-tax benefits like transit. There's a long list of benefits, and we will do a podcast on that. But that's a nice way of saying, do you have a retirement plan?
Okay, let's say I work at Dairy Queen and my spouse works at Target. And we both have retirement plans because we're working full time, right? And we're both working Monday through Friday. God forbid a bowling ball falls out of a truck and hits my spouse and he dies on the side of the road.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, I'm sorry. But do I have access to his Target retirement plan?
That's a great question. So what he needs to do when you fill out the paperwork, because you have to fill out the paperwork for your 401k or your retirement plan, is you have to list a beneficiary.
Okay.
And I actually have a funny story about that. So when I was married, my husband at the time, we were kind of, once a year, we were just going through all our paperwork and such. And we had realized, and he had worked at one job for a long time. So his 401k at his job was rather large because he had worked there for 20 years and been contributing. We had realized that the beneficiary on his retirement plan at work was his sister. And the reason why is that he had started that job. We weren't together. He didn't even know who I was, and he wasn't dating anybody. So he had put his sister as beneficiary. So if God forbid he had died, his sister would have gotten all that money. So this is a good time to do some spring cleaning.
Yes.
If you have a 401k and, find out who the beneficiary is.
That's so important, especially if you're with someone who was married before.
Right. Right.
You want to make sure that person is off of that. Right. And that you're on it. Let's just say. Okay.
Exactly. And while say you get this job and you've got the benefits, you've gotten a crumb more, you've signed up at the 401k, here's one more thing I'm going to ask you to do at your job is talk to your HR department and ask them to bring a personal finance seminar to your job. So you can learn more about the investments within the 401k and you can learn more about the benefits.
Oh, Like a private one-on-one, a Zoom, or is this for a public consumption for everybody in the company?
Just like a lunch and learn workshop. Like we could come and do that, right?
Yeah.
And I've actually done that. I've done loads and loads of lunch and learns at corporations, at hospitals, at organizations where I come and talk about benefits. And I'm not selling my services per se, but this is something that you can do as an employee and ask your HR department to bring that. It costs them nothing. And it's an amazing, amazing value benefit that you as an employee will really value the employer more.
Right. So if you're working full-time at a company and not taking advantage of the 401k and not, especially if they match it, that's money you're leaving on the table.
Absolutely.
You're basically burning cash in your backyard if you're not taking advantage of this.
And the money that you're contributing to your 401k is done on a pre-tax basis. So you're actually, especially if you live in a place like New York City or California or in a high income tax rate state, you could actually be saving money on taxes by contributing to your 401k.
Wow.
So it's another benefit. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And let's say it's nice and big and swollen and you've been contributing all these years. What age can you start tapping into that?
So you can't touch it until you're age 59 and a half.
Okay.
You can take it out beforehand, but you're going to be hit with a lot of penalties. So I don't even want you to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
You can borrow from it. And again, you're going to be hit with a lot of penalties and lose a lot of money. So I'm not even going to talk about it. So technically, without penalties, you can start touching it after age 59 and a half.
Okay.
When you need it.
So I have 30 years to go.
Exactly. Child bride. Now, for those of you that are freelancers or artists, or work for yourself, or if you work for a company on a freelance basis, or if you're working at Dairy Queen and you're not working full time, but you are getting a paycheck, you can still do your own retirement plan. You can do that at age 16, 17, 21. This is first job.
Okay.
So what you can do is you can open up a Roth IRA.
Yeah, I have one of those.
Do that as soon as possible. And so you can only do it if you make less than, as a single person, $139,000 a year, or as a married person, $199,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
But say you work at Dairy Queen and you're getting a crumb more and you're getting $15 an hour and you have an extra $1,000, put that into a Roth IRA. Do that at age 15, 16, 21, as soon as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Open that Roth and put a little bit of money in there.
And then when you make more than that, you roll it into something else.
Exactly. Or you just leave it and you don't touch it. And you can do up to $6,000 a year into a Roth IRA.
Mm-hmm.
So my daughter, who was waitressing this summer, I insisted that she opened up a Roth IRA with some of her earnings from waitressing. And the power of compound interest. So for those of you that are listening that have your first job as a lifeguard or working at Dairy Queen or Dunkin' Donuts or
making boobies with the pizza dough.
Exactly. Locking the door and necking with your boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, whatever.
At the Benetton store.
Exactly. Take a little bit of that money and open a Roth IRA. My favorite place these days is Vanguard. You can open your Roth IRA at Vanguard, pick the target date fund for 2040 or later, but just do it. So for those of you that are listening that have your first job, or if you're listening and you've got a child in your life that has a first job, this is one of the greatest gifts that you can either give yourself or give them, is to open a Roth IRA. Vanguard's my favorite place these days. And like I said, pick the target date fund.
Got it.
We've got so many more tips here for your first jobs. So here's one of my favorite ones is don't do this alone. Find a money buddy.
Would you be my money buddy?
I would love to be your money buddy.
I love this idea of having a money buddy. Again, it's getting women talking about money.
I know.
We don't have to tell our net worth to 23 people, but you have that one private, tender, wonderful, gentle friend that you can say, hey, this is what I need to do this year. These are some money goals for my family. Can you support me in this? I love that. Love that.
So who shouldn't it be? Who should it not be?
I don't think it should be our spouses.
Or romantic partners, or girlfriends, or boyfriends.
Right. Okay. So it should be someone, well, you and I, it's a working relationship, friendly. Right. I mean, somebody who has the know-how.
Well, I don't actually think it should be somebody who has the know-how. No, I think it's someone who you can specifically say, I want to do more with my money. I'm just starting out. and I need someone to hold me accountable, and I will do the same for you.
Right. Okay.
Because, first of all, I can't be everybody's money buddy. And trust me, people ask me, but I can't, I've got to say no. I've got to set some boundaries, right?
Right.
And most of us don't. But say you just started a job and you're so proud of yourself for signing up for your 401k, or you opened up a Roth IRA because you're freelancing or you're getting paid hourly, but you want to do more. Maybe you want to learn about the investments that you've got. Find someone and say, here's some of my goals. Let's talk about this every week. Let's meet for a coffee. Let's meet for a glass of wine. Let's go for a walk around the park and say, what did you do this week around your money goals?
That's so great because you're helping me with real estate and
right.
navigating real estate and buying things. And that is so helpful to talk to someone and say, okay, this week you're going to send me 3 photos of homes that you like in this city, right?
Right. And the idea is that for your money buddy, it's not emotional. Money is really emotional for us. Like I think about the goals that I have and that I want to do. And it's super, super emotional for me because it's about me. But for the person I'm talking to, they don't care. They just want you to follow through with what you've got. They're not as personally invested. Of course, they're your friend and they're accountable. And there's something about just showing up. And what I have seen is people who do follow their money goals with someone, not alone, just see better results. And this can be something as little as I'm going to set up automatic savings. I'm going to contribute more to my 401k every 6 months. I'm going to take advantage of the benefits they've got. I'm going to look at the investments in my Roth IRA. There's so many things that we can do, or just talk about what you did this week. Talk about the apps that you've got.
That's so great. So you're saying either once a week or once a month, go out, meet someone for coffee or a margarita and say, by this time, the 30th of next month when we meet, I will have done these 2 things and you will have accomplished these 2 things. So I'll see you in 30 days. And then you support each other all the way through till the next month.
Exactly.
Almost like a sponsor.
I actually look at it as a personal trainer. And I know that I never did personal training because I was too cheap about it. I always thought it was too expensive. I thought it was like a luxury. And then I found this one that could do half-hour sessions online. This was before online. And I realized that it helped me with my goal, which was really to build more strength. Like I'm a great cardio person. I walk, I run, I bike, I do a lot, but I really wanted to build some strength training. So I found that personal training, and again, I found it very discounted because I am kind of cheap about that, but it did help me because it kept me accountable. So that's what this money buddy is going to do for you. And by the way, it can be somebody at work. Like, why not? Why not if you find someone that you know in another department or somebody that you know that maybe works with you, but you're not necessarily like reporting to each other, but to really say, how can we get more out of our company? Especially with a large company that might have, I've seen benefits. Literally, I did a corporate seminar for this company and they sent me, and it was a very large corporation. They sent me their benefits in a PDF. How many pages do you think it was?
2?
128 pages. I'll never forget that. That was their list of benefits.
Oh my God.
So what that means to me though, is that they're offering you a lot. There was definitely like a lot of like legal jargon, but it also meant that they offered so many great benefits.
And you just got to weed through that and find out what they are.
Yeah, exactly.
So how would you tee this up? You find someone in another department. You say, look, we're going to keep our clothes on, but it's not that kind of buddy. Not that kind of buddy I had in the 1990s.
I had one of those too, to be honest.
Booty call 1137. Ring, ring, ring.
Meet you at the bathroom on floor 2.
Yep. Here's my gate code. Come on over, crazy Mike. Okay. So you would just find someone in a different department at work or in your life, in your social circle, and say, hey, would you be interested? I have a desire to be on top of my finances. Would you want to connect once a month and talk about this with me?
Right. And look, it should be somebody that you're comfortable with saying, I've got credit card debt I want to pay off, or my savings are 0 and I'd like them to be more than 0, and not take it personally that maybe you're not where you're at financially. And also you don't judge them. And you might have a week where you're like, oh God, I did nothing. In fact, I did less than nothing. And I put something on my credit card that I shouldn't have, or I emptied my savings account to buy that dress I had to have, and say, okay, great. Let's start over. No judgment.
No judgment.
Yeah.
Judgment-free zone. Yeah.
Right.
Which you give me. Thank you.
My pleasure. While you're at it, in your first job, and someone gave me this advice, and I'll never ever forget that. It was my first corporate job. I was working for a large Japanese bank, and there were very few women. And this woman pulled me aside, Liz. I remember. This is actually kind of funny. She had two pieces of advice. The first was, she said, learn to play golf.
Oh, because men play golf?
Men play golf. It's where deals are made. You can show up. You can be part of the conversation. She said also, if you can stomach it, go to the strip clubs.
Oh, wow.
This was Wall Street in the early 90s.
I heard about this time. I had a
said,
friend that worked during that time, said there was a lot of expenses at the strip clubs.
Yeah, she said, and I said, do you go? She goes, yeah, of course. I play golf. I actually learned to love it, and I go to the strip clubs.
And it's even better if you know how to strip on a golf course.
Where are the poles? So I learned to play golf. I didn't love it.
Here's what I'm sick of. Why do we have to learn their games? How about they come and sit in my backyard with a delicious kombucha and talk about their feelings? Why aren't guys saying, you know what? I got to learn how to talk about my feelings and drink kombucha because the women are doing it. Why do we have to play their game? Let's create our own rules.
I know. So this was her advice, but her third piece of advice was, and this was before phones. We did not have a cell phone. My first job, my corporate job, did not have a cell phone. And she said, get a notebook, keep it in your drawer, and keep track of your accomplishments.
Oh,
so
good.
Every little thing you do. So it could be as simple as, if you're in sales, really keeping track of your sales on a spreadsheet. If you land clients, how many clients you've landed. But I actually worked in research. So for me, it was every time I wrote a piece of research, and literally every time a senior manager would compliment me, I would write it down.
Wow.
So if so-and-so from the bond department or so-and-so from the risk credit swap department said, Galia, that was a great piece of research. I told 3 clients about it. So it's not quantifiable. It's not like I can say, oh, I made X amount of money or this and that. But the fact that someone else acknowledged it, I could keep track of it. And here's why it's important, is that when it's time for your review and you're asking for more money, you can say, here's what I did.
That's brilliant. That's so good. Wow.
So start this in your first job. And by the way, I'm giving you my experience working in corporate America, but this could be your experience if you're working at the clothing store. You can say, I folded the 17 t-shirts in 15 minutes.
Before I dry hump my really good looking boyfriend who looked like Jake from 16 Candles for 2 hours. But I did sell 4 wool coats.
Yes.
I mean, I was at the Benetton store thinking it was the height of couture fashion.
Mm-hmm. I remember I actually had that blue and white stripe with the big Benetton logo, and it was like their rugby, and it was so expensive.
Oh,
I remember saving up so much money, and I thought it was so cool.
It was cool, and it was fancy, and I never thought to save a penny of that when I was 16 or 17.
Well, yes. So saving it, but at least if you can start by keeping track of, you emptied all the boxes without anybody asking you to.
Right.
You dusted the shelves without anybody asking you to. Like, I hate to say it, no one's going to know that you did it. They might say, oh, that looks great. And then they'll forget about it. But then when it's time for you to ask for more money, so you've been working there for 3 months or 6 months, and maybe you want better hours. Maybe you don't want to work the Saturday and Sunday shift. Maybe you want to work Monday, Tuesday, so you can have more free time, but they only give that to the good people. Or you can say, you know what, I would like higher commission, or I want $15 an hour and I'm getting 13. And here's all the things that I did.
It's great.
And especially now that we have our phone, it's so easy to keep track of it in a note tab.
That's brilliant. And also too, even if no one else ever read your list, you have that private delicious information about yourself. And if anything, it's self-affirming at night to look at that and go, oh my gosh, look what I've done. Look what 3 months ago, the boss gave me this compliment. And then the boss's spouse said this to me. And then, that's a really beautiful thing to have, is your history, your herstory, right?
Right. Your herstory. Exactly. Yeah. And I think it'll give you more ammunition for asking for more. It'll give you more ammunition for wanting to do more, regardless of where you're at. So start this right away.
Okay.
And I remember I even did that with my daughter this summer. She had started off as kind of like a junior server, and she was there for a month. And I said, okay, you need to go in there and ask to be a senior server, because you get a higher percentage of what they would do is they would pool all the tips, and the senior server got 20% and the juniors got 10%. And then, and it was in a good way. They really spread it amongst the cooks and the bussers and such. And I said, Sophie, you need to right away ask to be a senior server. Like, I've seen you in there, because I would actually go and eat there all the time because I was so proud of her.
I would go.
And I'd see her in the corner, like rolling napkins and bussing tables and smiling and people patting her on the back. And I was like, Sophie, I kept track of her accomplishments and I was teaching her this. And I said, go in there and ask to be a senior server. And she did. Literally, she would come home with so much more money.
Wow.
And then, of course, I made her open the Roth IRA, which she did grumbling, but I did.
That's so good. I mean, Gable's still 14, so we're not there yet. And Amy Grant is not making music videos for him to be in. So, but we're getting close. We're getting close.
But what you can do with him, if he has any sort of job that he makes money, and that job can even be you paying him for a project, like maybe say, Gable, clean out the garage and I'll give you $20 for it. And if you do, say, fine, give me $5 of that and let's save a portion of it.
I love that. And that's starting young and early.
Right. So that's his first job. And you're forcing him, or you're teaching him to save a portion of it.
I love it. Miss Galia, we have a really hot letter right here.
Want more pecuniary pleasure? Let's read a letter.
Dear Fiscal Firecrackers, I used to balance my bank and credit card statements on paper. I happily moved to banking apps when they first came out. I did it to calculate my balance. Now that transactions are automatically imported, is there any point to reconciling or balancing my accounts anymore? It gives me a sense of satisfaction, but it's time consuming. Sincerely, Dr. Dial-Up Modem.
Oh my goodness. I remember reconciling and balancing my checkbook. And I think I was even sharing this, that my ex-husband and his family, they used to balance their checkbook in church.
Way to go.
I know. So digest that. So the power of balancing your checkbook and reconciling, and it can actually be really satisfying, but I don't think it's as important today. And here's why. Most of us are not writing checks as much. We used to do it because we wanted to know our cash balance because things hadn't cleared.
Right.
And so that's not as relevant anymore. Number two, with so much being automated that you can automatically download it and sync it to an app like Quicken or Mint or YNAB, you can see all that information. So what I want you to think about, Dr. Dial-Up, is two things. I like to look at the big picture. And my big picture is, are you saving enough? How is the cash account in your savings account? And if you're happy with that, you probably don't need to reconcile as much because you're saving the way you want to save.
Right.
Now, with that being said, I would want you to look at your itemized statement once a month, once a quarter, to make sure that A, that there's no fraud, and B, to make sure that there's no recurring expenses that you don't want anymore. But other than that, I wouldn't take the time to reconcile or balance your accounts. If you are saving the way you want to save and you know that everything you've spent, all your expenditures are what you have spent and there's no fraud there. So find another hobby, Dr. Dial-Up, take up fishing, look for that home that you're going to buy up in the mountains, crocheting, knitting,
talking about your feelings.
Kombucha. Yes, talk about your feelings.
That's my favorite thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great advice. Oh my gosh. Okay, so first jobs, we've got so many takeaways. Most importantly, ask for a little raise, ask for a crumb, ask for a bump up before you start that job. Get a money buddy. Keep track of your accomplishments.
And sign up for the retirement plan at work. If your company offers it, sign up for it immediately, the 401k, 403b. If they don't offer it, or if you're working freelance, open a Roth IRA ASAP. Even if you put $500 a year, right away, open that Roth IRA, sign up for that 401k.
That's great. And it will all grow into a lot of pizza dough. I promise you.
Yes. Shaped like boobies or whatever you want.
Whatever you want. Shaped like a beautiful future.
Exactly. So this is another great podcast in the books.
Yeah.
Join us next time for more Fiscal Firecrackers. Thank you to everyone for joining us today. And we hope you learned a lot about what you're going to do in your first job.
Remember, everybody, put down that mocha latte and ask for a raise.
Fiscal Firecrackers!
Thank you for listening to our podcast, The Fiscal Firecrackers. While this podcast contains information about finances and investments, financial results discussed herein are not necessarily typical and are not a guarantee of future success. The creators of this podcast make no warranty, guarantee, or representation as to the accuracy or sufficiency of the information featured in this podcast. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. The podcast should not be considered professional advice and is not a substitute for a financial planner or investment banker. Please seek professional guidance and do your own research before investing. Oh, that was a mouthful.